The rain-painted watercolor streaks down the glass walls of Blackwell architecture as Natasha Rivers pressed her palms against her tired eyes. The blueprint before her blurred into incomprehensible lines, numbers swimming like restless fish across the page. 3 in the morning, and she was still here, still trying to prove she belonged, still trying to forget Boston, forget Damien, forget the way trust had crumbled in her hands like ash. Her coffee sat abandoned, a cold ring of bitterness in a ceramic mug. The Riverside Plaza project consumed her thoughts, every calculation a chance to demonstrate her worth. After fleeing Boston with nothing but her shattered confidence and a non-disclosure agreement that felt like a gag order, she needed this position to work. She needed to believe that somewhere in this world, merit still mattered more than manipulation. Natasha told herself she would rest for just 5 minutes. Her arms folded across the desk, creating a makeshift pillow. The warmth of her own breath against her sleeve felt oddly comforting, like a ghost of security she once knew. Her eyelids grew heavy, weighted by exhaustion and the rhythm of rain against glass. Sleep arrived, not as rest, but as surrender. Owen Blackwell emerged from the executive conference room at 3:15, his tie hanging loose around his neck, like a question he had forgotten to answer. 14 hours of contract negotiations had left him hollow, his mind still churning through clauses and contingencies. He was heading toward the elevator when light from the architecture division caught his attention. At first, he assumed someone had simply forgotten to power down their workstation, but as he approached, curiosity drew him forward. There she was, the new hire from Boston, the quiet one his assistant had mentioned. Natasha Rivers, surrounded by scattered papers like autumn leaves, her laptop casting pale illumination across her sleeping face. Owen stood in the doorway longer than professional courtesy warranted. Something about the scene struck him deeply. Vulnerability wrapped in determination. It reminded him painfully of Claire, his sister, who had worked herself into exhaustion for a company that valued profit margins over human lives. 5 years since the building collapse that took her, and still the wound felt fresh. He noticed the calculations spread across Natasha's desk, the revisions marked in precise red ink, the crumpled protein bar wrapper that suggested she had been here for hours. Pride and concern warred within him. This was exactly how Claire had lived those final months before the structure failure that killed 17 people, including her. Owen retrieved his jacket from a nearby coat rack and approached quietly. He draped it gently across Natasha's shoulders, the fabric settling like a whispered promise. She stirred slightly, but remained asleep, her fingers curling as though holding onto something precious. Even in dreams, he should have left then. Should have maintained the professional distance he had carefully constructed since founding this firm. But something held him. There, something in the notebook beside her hand, with words scrawled across the cover in determined handwriting. "You are stronger than you think." Owen leaned closer, his voice barely a breath. No one should sacrifice their peace to prove their worth. The words escaped before he could stop them, pulled from some deep place he rarely accessed. He straightened immediately, aware he had crossed an invisible line. Speaking to a sleeping employee violated every boundary he maintained. Yet somehow it felt necessary, like a message delivered across time to the sister he could not save. Natasha's eyes fluttered open, confusion clouding her features before focus arrived. When she saw him standing there, Owen Blackwell himself, the man whose name adorned the building entrance in brushed steel letters. Her eyes widened with recognition and embarrassment. She sat up quickly, his jacket sliding from her shoulders. Her cheeks flushed deep crimson. "I apologize, I did not mean to fall asleep. I was reviewing the calculations, and I just needed a moment. It happens," Owen replied, his voice returning to its usual controlled register, though something in his expression remained softer than typical. "You have been working late." Natasha scrambled to organize her scattered papers, mortified. "I will finish this at home. I should not have stayed this long, Miss Rivers." His voice stopped her movement. She looked up, meeting his gaze. "How long have you been here today?" She hesitated. "Since 7 this morning. That makes nearly 20 hours. Owen frowned slightly. "That kind of schedule is unsustainable. I wanted everything to be perfect. This project matters to me," Owen studied her for a long moment. He recognized the fear beneath her dedication, the terror of inadequacy that drove people to destroy themselves. Perfect is a dangerous goal, he said quietly. It makes us forget we are human first. Natasha blinked, surprised by the personal nature of his words. They did not sound like corporate platitudes. They sounded lived, earned through pain. Thank you for the jacket, she managed. He nodded. Go home, Miss Rivers. The work will be here tomorrow, but you need rest. As he turned toward the doorway, he paused. And Miss Rivers, your calculations were correct. I reviewed them before you fell asleep. You have strong instincts. Trust them. Then he was gone, his footsteps fading into the silent hallway. Natasha sat frozen for several minutes after his departure, her heart still racing. She pulled his jacket closer, feeling residual warmth in the fabric, catching the scent of cedar and night rain. What had he said while she slept? Had she dreamed that whisper, or had it been real? And why had his words about proving worth struck so precisely at the wound Damien had left bleeding? Outside, the rain began to soften. City lights reflected off wet pavement below, creating rivers of gold and silver. Natasha gathered her belongings slowly, carefully folding Owen's jacket. She would return it tomorrow, but tonight, she held it close as the elevator descended. Something had shifted in those brief moments. Something she could not name, but felt in her chest like recognition. Two people who understood loss had found each other standing in the rain, and suddenly neither felt quite so alone. The night security guard nodded as she exited the building. Cold air struck her face, sharp and clarifying. Natasha looked back at the glass tower rising above her. Somewhere up there, Owen Blackwell was probably still working, still carrying whatever weight drove him through empty hallways at 3 in the morning. She did not know his full story yet, but in that unexpected encounter, she had glimpsed the person beneath the title, and it made her want to understand more. Made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, broken things could still create something beautiful, if they were careful enough, brave enough to try. Natasha arrived at the office earlier than usual the next morning, Owen's jacket carefully protected in a garment bag. Nervousness fluttered in her chest, a sensation she had not experienced since her first day. The encounter from the previous night replayed in her mind like a melody. She could not stop humming. His unexpected gentleness, the way he had looked at her, as though he understood things she had never spoken aloud. She took the elevator to the executive floor, her heartbeat accelerating with each ascending level. The reception area gleamed with marble and modern art, intimidating in its perfection. The receptionist glanced up with polite curiosity. I need to return something to Mr. Blackwell, Natasha said, lifting the garment bag slightly. I can take that for you. The receptionist offered. I would prefer to return it personally. Before the receptionist could respond, a familiar voice spoke from behind. Miss Rivers. Natasha turned. Owen stood near the elevator she had just exited, holding a leather portfolio and coffee. He wore a different suit today, navy with subtle pinstripes, but the same careful composure. Yet when their eyes met, something flickered in his expression. Recognition, perhaps relief. I have your jacket, she said quickly, her words tumbling out. He glanced at his receptionist. Hold my calls for 10 minutes. Then to Natasha, please come in. His office was everything she expected and nothing like it simultaneously. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A massive desk of dark wood and steel dominated the space. But there were also photographs on the shelves, books about sustainable architecture, a small succulent struggling valiantly in filtered sunlight. Details that made the space feel inhabited rather than merely occupied. You did not need to bring it yourself, Owen said, as she handed him the garment bag. But thank you. I wanted to thank you properly, Natasha replied. For last night. For not being angry that I fell asleep. He set the bag aside and gestured toward the sitting area near the windows. Two chairs faced each other across a low table, less formal than his imposing desk. I do not punish people for working hard. If anything, I should apologize for not noticing sooner how many hours you have been dedicating. They sat. The city sprawled below them, alive with morning movement. Natasha folded her hands in her lap, uncertain what to say next. Can I ask you something? Owen's voice was measured, careful. Why did you leave Boston? The official reason in your file is restructuring, but I have been doing this long enough to recognize that usually means something else. The question caught her unprepared. Her stomach tightened. It is in my file, she said quietly. The official version, he agreed. But I would like to understand what actually happened. Natasha looked down at her hands. She had told no one the complete truth. Not during interviews, not to colleagues. But something about Owen's directness, the genuine interest in his tone, made her walls feel suddenly transparent. I trusted the wrong person, she said quietly. His name was Damian Cross. We were partners, professionally and personally. For 3 years, we worked together on everything. She paused, gathering courage. I designed a sustainable housing complex, spent 18 months developing it, poured everything into making it revolutionary and affordable. When it came time to present to investors, Damian took my plans and presented them as his own work. Owen's expression darkened, but he remained silent, allowing her to continue. I confronted him. He told me I was being emotional, that in the real world, credit goes to whoever presents the strongest case. The firm sided with him. They offered me severance and a non-disclosure agreement. Her voice cracked slightly. So I signed it, took the money and left Boston. Started over here. I'm sorry that happened to you, Owen said. The words were simple, but carried genuine weight. That kind of betrayal changes how you see the world. She looked up, surprised by his understanding. It made me realize that trust is just another word for vulnerability, and vulnerability gets you destroyed. Owen stood and walked to the window, his back to her. For a long moment, silence stretched between them. When he spoke, his voice was different, lower, more personal. 5 years ago, my sister Claire died in a building collapse. He did not turn around. She was a project manager for a development company. They cut corners on safety inspections to save money. When the structure failed, 17 people were inside. Claire was one of 6 who did not make it out. Natasha's breath caught. Owen, I'm so sorry. The company buried the evidence, Owen continued. Paid off inspectors, settled with families quietly. Claire's death became a line item in a legal budget. His hands clenched at his sides. That is when I decided to start my own firm. I wanted to build something where people mattered more than quarterly earnings, where no one would be sacrificed for profit. He turned back to face her, his eyes holding sadness that made him look older. So when I see someone working themselves to exhaustion, trying to prove their worth through sheer determination, recognize it. Because that is exactly what Claire did before she died. The air between them felt heavy with shared grief. 2 people carrying wounds that never quite healed. Is that why you said what you said last night? Natasha asked softly. About not having to prove my worth? Owen nodded. You remind me of her. That same determination. That same fear hiding underneath. Natasha wanted to say more, to ask more, but Owen's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. I have a meeting in 5 minutes. But, Miss Rivers, I meant what I said. Your work is excellent. You do not need to destroy yourself proving that. She stood to leave, then hesitated. Actually, there is something I wanted to discuss. It concerns the Riverside Plaza project. His attention sharpened immediately. Go on. Some of the structural calculations do not match the material orders. The blueprints specify grade 50 steel, but the purchase orders show grade 40. It is a small difference, but for a building that size, it could be significant. Owen's expression changed. The warmth disappeared, replaced by focused intensity. Are you certain? I triple-checked. That is why I was there so late last night. He pulled out his phone again, typing rapidly. Send me everything you found. Every document, every calculation. Is something wrong? I do not know yet, he said. But if you are right, we need to discover the truth before construction begins next month. He looked at her directly. This stays between us for now. Can I trust you with that? The question felt weighted with more than professional confidence. It felt like a test, like an offering. Yes, Natasha said firmly. You can trust me. That afternoon, Natasha was reviewing additional files when her supervisor summoned her to his office. Her stomach dropped when she saw who occupied the guest chair, Damien Cross. He looked exactly as she remembered. Perfectly styled, dark hair, expensive suit, that confident smile that once made her feel safe, but now made her skin crawl. "Natasha," he said warmly, standing as though to embrace her. What a pleasant surprise. She kept her distance. "Damien, I did not know you were in New York. I am consulting on the Riverside Plaza project," he explained smoothly. "My firm is partnering with Blackwell Architecture on the development phase. Is it not wonderful that we get to work together again?" Her supervisor, completely oblivious to the tension, beamed. "Damien speaks very highly of your previous collaboration. Says you two made an excellent team." Natasha forced a smile. "That was a long time ago." "Well, you will have plenty of time to reconnect," her supervisor continued. "Damien will be here for the next 3 months overseeing engineering integration." After the meeting, Damien followed her into the hallway. "You look good, Nat. New city suits you. Do not call me that," she said coldly. "And stay away from my work." He laughed. That same dismissive sound she remembered. "Still holding grudges? I thought you would be over that by now." "It was just business. It was theft. It was survival," he corrected. "And if you had been smarter, you would have done the same thing. The world does not reward nice people, Natasha. It rewards winners." She walked away before she said something she would regret, but her hands shook. Seeing Damien again brought back every feeling she had tried to bury. The betrayal, the humiliation, the crushing realization that the person she loved had never really seen her as anything more than a stepping stone. That evening, Natasha stayed late again, this time intentionally. She needed to review the documents Owen had requested, and she needed distance from Damien's presence. Around 9, there was a knock on her doorframe. Owen stood there holding 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need this," she accepted gratefully. "How did you know I would still be here?" "Because I am still here," he said simply. "And because I suspected you would want to investigate those discrepancies further." They spread documents across the conference table in her office. For hours, they worked side by side, tracing paper trails and comparing specifications. Owen was different in this setting. Less CEO, more colleague. He asked intelligent questions, challenged her assumptions in ways that made her think harder. "There," Natasha said finally, pointing to a procurement form. "This was approved by someone outside our firm. The signature authorization comes from Titan Construction Group." Owen leaned closer, his shoulder brushing hers. "That is Damien Cross's company." She froze. "He is behind this?" "It appears that way." Owen's jaw tightened. "He is substituting inferior materials and pocketing the cost difference. If this building goes up with grade 40 steel instead of grade 50, it might hold for a few years. But eventually, under stress, it could fail." The implication struck Natasha like a physical blow. "People could die, just like your sister." Owen looked at her, and in that moment she saw past every barrier he maintained. She saw rage, grief, and determination. "Not on my watch," he said quietly. "Not ever again." They sat in silence, the weight of discovery settling over them. Outside, city lights glittered like scattered diamonds. "He will come after us if we expose this," Natasha said. "Damien does not lose gracefully. Then we make sure we have evidence he cannot destroy." Owen pulled out his phone. "I am bringing in a forensic accountant. Someone I trust completely. We will build a case so airtight that even his lawyers cannot break it." Natasha nodded. Then, almost without thinking, she reached over and touched his hand. "Thank you for believing me." Owen turned his hand over, his fingers gently closing around hers. "Thank you for seeing what others missed. You may have just saved lives." The touch lasted only a moment, but it felt like a promise. 2 people who had learned not to trust had just chosen to trust each other. And in that choice, something fragile and precious began to grow. The following week moved like a chess game played in shadows. Owen brought in his forensic accountant, a sharp woman named Rachel Park, who specialized in construction fraud. Natasha provided every document she had discovered, every inconsistency pointing toward Damien's scheme. They worked in careful secrecy, meeting only in secure locations after hours. Damien seemed oblivious at first, walking through the office with his usual confidence. But Natasha noticed things. The way his eyes followed her when she left her desk. How he always seemed nearby when she took phone calls. The questions he asked that seemed casual but felt calculated. He knows something, she told Owen during one of their late meetings. I can feel it. Owen looked up from financial statements spread before him. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. Rachel found another layer. Damien is not just skimming money from materials. He created shell companies to inflate labor costs. The fraud goes deeper than we thought. Natasha's stomach turned. How much are we discussing? Nearly $8 million. Spread across 4 projects, not just Riverside Plaza. Owen rubbed his face tiredly. If we go public with this, it will not just destroy Damien. It could damage Blackwell Architecture's reputation. Investors will question our oversight. So what do you want to do? She asked quietly. He met her gaze. I want to do what is right, even if it costs me everything I built. Days later, Natasha found an envelope on her desk. No name, no return address. Inside were photographs. Pictures of her apartment building, her morning coffee shop, the route she walked to the subway. Underneath, a single typed note. Some truths are better left buried. Remember Boston. Her hands trembled. Damien was watching her, tracking her movements, ensuring she understood he could reach her anywhere. She went straight to Owen's office, not caring who saw. His assistant tried to stop her, but Natasha pushed past. Owen was on a conference call, but when he saw her face, he ended it immediately. What happened? She handed him the envelope. His expression darkened as he examined the contents. When he finished, he stood and locked his office door. Then he pulled out his phone. I need private security. 2 officers starting immediately. He gave Natasha's address. Yes, I understand the cost. Do it anyway, Owen. You do not have to, she protested. Yes, I do. His voice was firm. Damien just made this personal. He threatened you because of work you did for me. That makes you my responsibility. Not your responsibility, she said, frustrated. I knew the risks when I brought this to you. Maybe not legally, Owen replied, but I will not let anyone else get hurt because of corruption. Not again. Not you. The intensity in his voice silenced her arguments. She saw it clearly. Then, this was not just about fraud anymore. For Owen, this had become about redemption. About saving someone when he had failed to save his sister. "Kay," she said softly. "Thank you." Friday came with unusual warmth. The city felt restless, charged with energy that had nowhere to go. Natasha worked late finalizing documents Rachel needed. Owen had left an hour earlier for a dinner meeting with investors. The office was mostly empty. She was preparing to leave when her computer screen flickered, then went black. When it returned, every file she had been working on was gone. Deleted. She frantically tried to recover them, but backup drives showed the same thing. Empty folders where critical evidence had been stored. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Did you really think I would not notice? Damien's voice was cold, stripped of pretense. I have been monitoring your activity for days. Every file you accessed, every document you copied. Damien, what did you do? I'm cleaning up loose ends, he said calmly. Right now, a sophisticated virus is spreading through Blackwell's server system. By morning, every piece of evidence you collected will be gone. And without evidence, you have nothing but accusations. Natasha's heart raced. The backups are off-site. Rachel has copies. He laughed. You mean the accountant who parks in the garage on 5th Street? The one who keeps her briefcase in her trunk? I am looking at that briefcase right now. The line went dead. Natasha ran. She grabbed her bag and sprinted toward the server room. If Damien had planted a virus, it would be running from there. She reached the server room and swiped her access card. The door clicked open. Inside, the temperature was cool, the air humming with electronic life. She found the main terminal and started typing commands. The virus was elegant and vicious, designed to look like a system update while destroying everything. She could slow it, but not stop it. Not alone. She called Owen. He answered immediately. Damien planted a virus. He is destroying all the evidence. I am in the server room trying to stop it, but I need help. I am 20 minutes away, Owen said. She could hear car sounds, urgent movement. Can you hold it that long? I do not know. He threatened Rachel too. I will call her. Just focus on the servers. I am coming. Natasha worked frantically, isolating system sections and manually copying files to external drives. The virus was faster than expected, adapting to her countermeasures. She managed to save approximately 40% of the financial data before it locked her out completely. Then she smelled smoke. At first, she thought she imagined it, but the scent grew stronger, acrid and chemical. She looked up and saw gray wisps curling from a ventilation grate. The fire alarm should have triggered, but nothing happened. Just eerie silence and the growing smell of burning plastic. Natasha ran to the door and pulled. It would not open. She tried her access card again. The reader flashed red. Denied. She pounded on the reinforced glass. Help! Someone! Fire! But the floor was empty. Her phone showed no signal inside the shielded server room. She was trapped. The smoke thickened quickly. Flames became visible through the grate, small at first, but spreading. The sprinkler system should have activated, but like the alarms, it stayed silent. Damien had not just planned to destroy data, he had planned to destroy witnesses. Natasha dropped to the floor where the air was clearer. Her mind raced through options. The emergency ventilation panel. If she could reach it, she could trigger a manual override that would unlock the doors. She pulled off her jacket, wrapped it around her face, and climbed onto one of the server racks. Her fingers found the panel and yanked it open. Inside was a red lever. She pulled with all her strength. Nothing happened. The override had been disabled too. Damien had thought of everything. The heat became unbearable. Flames spread across ceiling tiles, dropping burning debris. One piece landed on her arm. She cried out, brushing it away. The pain was sharp and immediate. Through thickening smoke, she saw movement beyond the glass. A figure, then the sound of something heavy slamming against the door. Once, twice, 3 times. The glass cracked. Owen's face appeared through the fractured door. His eyes were wild with fear and determination. He slammed a fire extinguisher against the weakened glass again. It shattered. He reached through, ignoring sharp edges, cutting his hands, and hit the manual release from inside. The door swung open. Come on. He grabbed her hand and pulled her through. Behind them, the server room erupted as fire reached electrical panels. The explosion threw them forward. Owen wrapped his body around hers as they hit the floor, shielding her from the blast. Through smoke and fear, they scrambled to their feet. The hallway was filling with smoke now, fire spreading faster than seemed possible. Owen kept his arm around Natasha's waist, supporting her weight as they ran toward emergency stairs. They burst through the stairwell door. Below them, they could hear voices, other people evacuating. But between their floor and safety was 10 stories of stairs and growing smoke. Owen took off his shirt and tore it in half, soaking both pieces with water from an emergency hose. He handed one to Natasha. Cover your mouth. Stay low. They descended as fast as they could. The smoke followed them, an angry living thing. Natasha's legs felt weak. Her lungs burned. The injury on her arm throbbed with each movement. On the 7th floor, she stumbled. Owen caught her before she fell. I cannot, she gasped. Go without me. Absolutely not. He lifted her into his arms, carrying her. His face was set with fierce determination. I told you. Not again. Not you. She wanted to protest, but had no strength left. Instead, she wrapped her arms around his neck and held on. Through the haze of pain and smoke, she felt his heartbeat against her cheek. Strong, steady, refusing to quit. They emerged into the lobby where firefighters were rushing in. Paramedics swarmed immediately, separating them. Natasha tried to keep sight of Owen, but hands guided her to an ambulance. Oxygen mask. Questions she could barely answer. Owen, she managed. Where is Owen? I am here. His voice cut through chaos. He appeared at her side, his hands bandaged, soot covering his face. I am right here. Their eyes met. In that moment, surrounded by sirens and smoke and wreckage, something unspoken passed between them. It was more than gratitude, more than partnership. It was recognition of what they had become to each other. Hours later, they sat in the hospital waiting room. Natasha's arm was bandaged. Owen's hands were stitched. Both had been treated for smoke inhalation. The doctors wanted to keep them overnight for observation, but neither was willing to stay. The files, Natasha said hoarsely. Did we save anything? Owen pulled a small hard drive from his pocket. When you called, I told Rachel to upload everything to a secure cloud server. This is the backup. Damien destroyed the physical evidence, but the digital trail still exists. Relief flooded through her. It is not over, then. No, he agreed. The police are looking for Damien. The fire marshal confirmed arson. Between that and the fraud evidence, he is going to prison. They sat in silence. Outside, dawn was breaking. The city looked clean in early light, washed by rain that had started after midnight. You saved my life, Natasha said quietly. Owen turned to her. His expression was raw, stripped of every professional mask. You gave me a reason to. What do you mean? After Claire died, I stopped believing anything mattered beyond work. I built a company, made money, maintained control, but I stopped feeling anything real. He reached over and took her unbandaged hand. Then you fell asleep at your desk, and something in me woke up. Natasha's throat tightened. I came here broken, thinking I would never trust anyone again. She looked at their joined hands. Now, I think maybe broken things can still hold something precious. If they are careful, if they try. Owen smiled, and it transformed his entire face. I would like to try, if you would. Yes, she whispered. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away. She did not. Their lips met softly, tentatively. A kiss that tasted like smoke and promises, like survival and new beginnings. When they pulled apart, Natasha rested her forehead against his. What happens now? Now we rebuild, Owen said. The company, our lives. Whatever comes next, we do it together. Outside, the sun climbed higher, painting the sky in shades of gold. Two people who had walked through fire had found each other on the other side. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be investigations and trials and difficult questions, but they would face it all standing together. Because sometimes the greatest courage is not facing danger alone. Sometimes it is choosing to trust again after betrayal, to love again after loss, to believe the future can be different from the past. And in that hospital waiting room, as morning broke over the city, Natasha and Owen made that choice together.